My name's Terry Phillips and I'm a member of the Justice and the Peace Commission, and I'm going to talk a bit about national identity, which is one of the things that's relevant to the debate about the EU. And what do we mean by identity? It's really a sense of belonging. Like for me, my first identity is my family, my husband, my 4 grown-up children, my grandchildren, and I feel a sense of identity and belonging with people in my own parish, for example, or when I worked, people I worked with. And I suppose identity extends this sense of belonging to include people we don't personally know. And for me, my most important identity is as a Christian. Once I would have said as a Catholic, but I've come to know lots of other Christians, and I feel we have a shared identity, things that are important to us, our sense of ourselves as children of God. Another important identity for me personally is a regional one. I've lived in Liverpool for over 40 years, and it's where I find my identity. I don't know most people who live in Liverpool personally, but we share the place we live, its history, our place on the River Mersey, the buildings, the parks, and I could go on. We all have multiple identities. So why is it that national identity is considered to be so special and so important? A more natural organisation of people, which is an extension of families, is tribes. And tribes are still important in some parts of the world, but historically they've been very widespread. One only needs to think of the 12 tribes of Israel, the Scottish clans, perhaps slightly less well-known Irish clans. And national identity is in fact a rather recent invention. And sociologists put the emergence of national identity down to the invention and spread of the printing press. Printing press was invented just before the start of the 15th century, and at first it was used simply for biblical texts, but eventually, and perhaps culminating in the 19th century, the spread of printing and the spread of the ability to read resulted in what people have called imagined communities. People who don't know each other directly but feel a shared connection, a shared destiny. And it reaches its European heyday in the second half of the 19th century with, if you can remember back to your history, the unification of Italy, the unification of Germany. Hitherto separate little kingdoms and dukedoms, some of which were part of the multi-ethnic Austrian Empire, which certainly wasn't a nation. Nevertheless, even nations are not without their own differences. Ask a native of Barcelona whether he's Spanish. Your answer might come in Catalan. So, we have a multiplicity of identities, personal, religious, regional. Why then has the nation assumed this near-sacred importance? And it's near-sacred. It's regarded as special. And I think, again, many sociologists would agree with me. It's to do with the decline of religion in the late 19th century after the publication of Darwin's Origin of Species. I believe that human beings have a need for the sacred. Ernst Renan, a late 19th century thinker whose ideas were very influential, delivered a very important lecture at the Sorbonne in 1882, in which he said, "A nation is a living soul, a spiritual principle." And for many people, I think this is what it has become, a near sacred duty encapsulated by those words, which I can remember my own father saying to me with pride when I was very young, "My country, right or wrong." And in conclusion, I think that however important national identity has been to some of us, we have to recognise that in our global world it is less important than it has been. If print media created a national identity, then radio, television and digital technology have created something very different.